Hi, everyone. This is Linda Basso, and I am here with Beryl Ryan of Tap Within, and we are going to be talking about EFT tapping. And I'm super excited about this. I had a client recently remind me that she said, "Oh, I found this thing called tapping, and I started doing it." And I was like, "Oh, right, I've been tapping for 15 years." And it never occurred to me that I should share it with my entrepreneur clients, but what a perfect tool. So I've asked Beryl to join me and kind of explain what EFT is and how it can work for you in your business. And I'm just really happy that you're here. So welcome, Beryl.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Great. So let's start with what is, so back in the day, I knew it as emotional freedom technique. I don't know, now it goes by the tapping solution or tapping or EFT. Like, tell us a little bit, what is it?
Okay, so EFT does stand for Emotional Freedom Technique. It's the term that it was used more so at the beginning. Tapping is more the common vernacular that's being used now.
Okay.
And that's because you're actually tapping on meridian points. So I explain it as acupuncture without needles that you can do for yourself. There's 9 points where we tap on the meridians, and those are points where the meridian is closer to the surface of the skin or it's an end point of a meridian. And so these 9 points have been identified as what they do. So they calm the amygdala, and they also get the energy flowing in the body, the chi or the whatever you want to call that in all the different faiths. It's when the energy is flowing in the body. So we have a certain setup statement that we use in the main recipe of it. We'll just say all kinds of variations, but the basic recipe, you tap 9 points, you say a phrase, and voila, you feel better.
Right. And so you mentioned meridians and the amygdala. So just meridians, give us the high level definition of what that is.
Okay, so meridians are basically the energy freeways or highways of the body. It's the channels with which the energy flows. And when it's clogged up, the body can't function as well. The mind can't think as well. And the amygdala is the fight or flight gland. It's the thing that says, oh my God, there's a tiger in the bushes. I'm in danger. And blood leaves the brain, and the immune system shuts down, and digestion shuts down. And all those things go into reacting to a threat.
And threat can be perceived or real. I think that's the big thing that modern day person has to take away is back in the day, it was a tiger in the bush, but a tiger in the bush today can look like a traffic jam, thinking you're going to be late for a meeting, or even anticipating that something is going to be stressful. I'm on my way to a networking meeting. Oh my God, blah, blah, blah. And you could actually start to have a full blown meltdown type reaction as if you need to run from a tiger and you're just on your way to an event.
Exactly.
So the meridians, the channels, the amygdala kind of is that overreactor or the reactive side of us. And it's our job is to, as modern people say, okay, that's not actually a threat. Got to get a hold of myself. I'd like to feel calmer.
Yes. And when you say it, it often doesn't work. And then you tap it and it works.
Okay. And why is that? Do you know?
Well, the meridians are part of our whole system, and when we tap these points, it sends that calming signal. I think the neurotransmitters actually change for the amygdala as far as in the brain and all of that. But I know that the body itself, the energy just starts flowing, and once it's flowing, then you don't feel that panic feeling anymore.
Okay, and then you can get back to being creative, resourceful, etc. Like the idea is that naturally we have a very productive, healthy response to moving through lives, to handling the situations in our business. And it's only when we get in our way or something blocks that we start to have trouble.
Exactly. That's my experience. Yes.
Okay. And so how could a small business person use EFT? Like what are some situations you can imagine or things that you see in your practice that would be helpful?
Well, I recently went through a career change, not a career change, but a job change. And during that time, I was panicked about money and nothing was happening in my new business. So that panic was stopping the creativity. It was stopping the flow, basically, of the universe, aside from the flow in my body. And so I tapped on the fear. I tapped on the fear of the money issue. I tapped on the overwhelm that I felt with 1,000 things to do and not even know where to start. A really, really important piece is that 70% of the blood leaves your forebrain. And that I think most people don't really focus on, but it's true, 70%. You can't think. You absolutely cannot problem solve. So to me, it's just a matter of identifying what it is that you feel blocked about, whatever it is, whether it's fear, whether it's overwhelm, whether it's anxiety isn't going to work. I guess that's the same as fear. But whatever it is, you know, there's too many things. That person is not responding and I think I've done something wrong. Whatever that thing is, you tap upon that thing, and then that thing is not a thing anymore, and then you flow again.
Mm-hmm. And so we're really talking about, in a way, these made up stories, right? We have, because like, yes, it's like, okay, I'm in a job shift, so theoretically, I don't know where money's coming from, but it's not like you were actually like homeless and broke, right? It's like telling yourself, I don't know where the next dollar is coming from. That client's not going to call me back. That person seemed confused when I told them what I do. Like, it's the internal story that we have that kicks off this whole process, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And my amygdala thought that I was going to be homeless and hungry. for sure.
Now, let's note that you just voluntarily did a 10-day cleanse where you actually were hungry, right? But like terror strikes when I might be hungry from not having money, right? We're such funny creatures, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so we make up a story in reaction to whatever's happening. Our amygdala goes crazy. We catch this. Now, do you have tools or helpful ways of catching that you're in a story? Just what do you notice? How would you know you were in a story? You notice you were sweaty, heart was racing, like what?
Well, I've been tapping for 7 years, and I pretty much decide anytime I don't feel la 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 la, I'm blocked in some way.
Okay.
And so,
Classically, la la la. I love it.
So as soon as I notice myself off, I just say, "What's going on?"
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, if you're in a full-blown anxiety attack, you're very clear what's going on, but it might just be like, "Oh, I feel off." So, you know, I just say, even though I feel off and I don't even know what's going on.
Yeah.
I can start around with that, and then pretty soon you know exactly why you're off. But I just really, nothing is more important to me than I feel good. You know, I've been following that philosophy for a very long time. Life flows when I feel good. And so anytime I don't, I just stop and ask why, and then I tap it out.
Mm-hmm. Great. So you have this built-in orientation towards understanding what's happening. So in a small business, I could say that, like you notice that there are some subtle things that could be happening. So if you're dreading doing a certain task, right, you have some items on your to-do list that you know you should do, or you know that you want to do even, but you can't seem to muster up the energy for them. You send something off and then you start worrying about it, right? Like you send that email or you send the proposal or you put the ad up, and immediately, instead of like, thank goodness I'm done, let me go reward myself, you start going into worry mind. Right? You start doubting, oh, I don't even know why I'm working on this. It's never going to work anyway. Right? So those are all very subtle forms that maybe people are not even catching that that's actually not okay. Like you're off in those moments, right?
Yes, for sure.
Anytime you notice that, like this dread or this worry, that's when you could stop and tap, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. So talk me through how that would happen. Like you would catch, ooh, I don't really want to do that activity, or I sent that off and now I'm worried. What would you do then?
You want to see a tapping sequence?
Sure.
Okay. So then I would say, even though I sent that off and I don't think they're going to respond to me and I'm a failure, I
hold up a little higher. You're tapping right here on the side of your hand, right?
Yes, on the karate chop. Yeah. I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Okay. And then 3 times you say the setup statement. So I'd say, even though I just sent that off and I'm really concerned they're not going to respond, and maybe this isn't even going to work anymore, and then, whatever one wants to say, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. And then the 3rd time, however you want to say it. But 3 times is the setup statement, what we're working on. Okay. Even though I just sent that thing off and I don't know if they're going to respond, and then what? Then I'm a failure and I shouldn't ever have done this, and what was I thinking, and whatever. Yeah. And I deeply and completely love and accept myself. And then we go to the top of the head. I just sent this thing off and I'm concerned they're not going to respond. And then the eyebrow. And if they don't respond, maybe I'm doing the whole thing wrong altogether. And then outside, whatever comes up, right? I'm freaking out, you know. Maybe I shouldn't even be doing this at all, you know. Maybe I should go out and get a job. Maybe I wrote it wrong and they're not going to respond because I wrote it stupidly. Whatever, right? Whatever. Even though, and you were on the collarbone here, I don't know if you can see me. You know, there's no more, even though it just could have been a really stupid thing that I wrote. And then I go under this kind of my thing on the bra strap and I just say, letting all that go now.
And that's on the side of your body, right about where the
bra, by the bra,
where the arm, right?
Bra
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's what I would do. And then I would first score whatever was the intensity of what I started with.
Mm-hmm.
It's called the SUDS, Subjective Units of Distress Scale. How bad does it feel?
Yeah.
And then I would afterwards stop and say, okay, well, how does it feel now?
Mm-hmm.
Assuming it went down or up or whatever, then you do it again, and you do it until there's relief.
Okay.
Usually there's relief really quick, really quick.
Okay. So usually you do that sequence 1, 2, 3 times, and then you're kind of good.
Yeah, it totally depends. I mean, I work with a lot of people. We do it once and that's over, and then we move on to the next thing. But, it may take 2 or 3. It might be an unveiling,
Mm-hmm.
right? Oh, I wrote this thing before. Sometimes it's connected to the past, what you're feeling like.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I wrote this paper and this person said that was, horrible grammar, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
You let whatever comes. Your subconscious is part of this process, and it brings up the next thing.
Yeah, and so I was going to ask the difference between doing it for oneself and doing it with a practitioner like you, and I think you're kind of getting at it, right? Like when there's a practitioner there, they're guiding it, and then you're more free to let each layer come up, or how would you describe the benefit of doing it with someone?
So I'm a trauma specialist. Although I work with absolutely everything, I am a trauma specialist. It's one of my passions because it's so quick. It's just so quick. And it might be something in your business that's actually connected to a trauma, that when you let that go, the business thing is over, right? So for trauma, it's a little too intense to work with yourself. But in general, the detective piece of it, the questions are really helpful to get with a practitioner because, I'm pretty intuitive. I think probably most practitioners are, but we can help find the questions to get to the layers underneath, if that makes sense. And when you're working with yourself, that's what a lot of people say. I get stuck. I don't know what to say. And when your subconscious is protecting you to keep you safe, then a practitioner can break through that because you bring an environment of safety where you may not have that for yourself.
Okay, great. And then in between seeing someone like yourself, you can use it to spot yourself and move through various things, right?
Yes. I mean, you have a headache, you got angry at somebody in the car, all kinds of day-to-day, I mean, Gary Craig, who created this, wants everybody in the world to do the personal peace procedure. And that's finding every memory since you can remember till the moment of now that still bothers you when you think about it, and just tap them all out. So a lot of those you can do by yourself, absolutely, and it changes your reality of life. And then some of them you don't want to do by yourself, and you work with somebody else.
Right, like too big of an issue. I mean, I remember, I don't know how many years ago this was, but I was driving to a party, a social party, and I realized that I was so anxious, and I was actually tapping
driving.
My hand on the side of the steering wheel.
That's what I teach people.
Right?
Yes,
I do that.
Use the steering wheel, and then you can just use one hand for the other points. Exactly.
Right. And I've done it in church. I've done it at the movies. I've done literally anytime I realize like something's going on, I can just try to tap it out because I just feel like I don't want to sit in that uncomfortable energy too long because not only is it uncomfortable, but I generally start doing things sideways in those moments, right? That's when I'm going to lose my temper. That's when I'm going to say something I regret. That's when something isn't going to flow easily for me. And I just would so much rather be in harmony.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So you work with folks from all over the world. I heard you.
Yes, I do. And I worked 11 years at the local jail, but I worked the last 7 as a tapping practitioner, and I tap with inmates. I mean, I literally find anybody that looks like they have an issue, whether they're limping or they have a brace or they just look, their eyebrow is for total strangers. I take a train literally, and I start every conversation that I sit next to. Hi, do you know about tapping? Oh, let me tell you, is there anything bothering you? So I tap with anybody and everybody that will listen to me. I've been at my job 3 days and I probably told 25 people about tapping.
Oh, that's great. Okay, but you do actually, you can be hired by someone, and you'll do a Zoom call or something.
Yes, I do Zoom. Yes. Okay. I have a private office, but I do Zoom. Yes.
Okay. So, and you just got a client recently from Iran, I heard?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, okay, good. So this is it's very accessible. It's available to anyone in the world. And then if somebody did want to learn more about it for themselves, do you recommend like the tapping solution or Gary's work? Like who do you recommend?
Gosh, there's a million resources. On my website, I have handouts that people can print, and I have them, and it has the basic recipe, and I have it for everybody and for parents and teachers and kids, English and Spanish. Okay. And they're all free because I just want to share it. I think it's the answer to world peace. So I really do believe it's the answer. When we feel good, we're kind, and there's no bullies, and there's nobody hurting anybody, and everybody would refuse to go fight if they felt the good inside. So that's my belief about that.
Right.
So the handouts are really great. And on my handout are all the sites. So
And okay, and that's called tapwithin.com. That's
correct.
the website. Okay, very good. And so back to the idea of you're running your business. You could theoretically do tapping with your clients, right? That's kind of what I'm proposing, is that my clients take this on as a practice for when they feel stressed or when they need motivation, or because I think like there's coaching and there's motivation and there's inspiration, right? And those are like the typical things we all try to do, but there's just some things you won't do by telling yourself. Like telling yourself just isn't going to be enough to do it. Why
Right,
is that?
right. Well, that's because there's some kind of a block in there, some kind of a mental trip that you're telling yourself about that. And tapping is also really, really effective for changing beliefs extremely quickly. So you must probably have some kind of a belief if you just won't do something. There's some kind of a belief behind that, you know, and that's where you get to be a detective with yourself. That's how kind and loving you can be. Like, you know, I'm not judging. I'm just like, I'm wondering, why can't I do this thing? Oh, well, when I tried something similar like that, you know, I was put down or embarrassed or whatever. You know?
Yeah, let's blow that out a little more, because I think that people don't always, like, if they're meaning to do something and they don't do something, they automatically jump to self-criticism. Oh, look, I never can follow through. I always drop the ball. See, they were right. I change my mind all the time, right? They just automatically go into self-judgment. And you're saying, whoa, just get curious, right? Just say,
Yes.
I wonder why
Yes.
I mean to do that thing, but I don't.
Yes.
And then that's when the subconscious kind of goes, oh, she's asking us to look through the file cabinet and pull out something that's related to this. And that's when you're going to have that memory pop, or you're going to have that understanding, like, oh, I'm actually kind of anxious about this, or I'm worried that it's not going to work out, or this reminds me of when I was in first grade and they told me I couldn't sing, whatever, right?
Yeah, exactly. And you may not even have a specific memory. It may just be, even though I don't feel safe doing this thing and I don't know why, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Sometimes I throw in and I forgive myself. You know?
So you could do this with the, even though I always react in this way, even though I typically avoid, even though I generally, like, you could just talk about your actual behaviors, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So behaviors, beliefs, and any triggered, like overreactivity. Those are the three. Are we missing some?
Blocks. I mean, blocks, but I guess they go under all that. Yeah. In the same kind of category.
Okay. So the formula is kind of create the awareness, or catch when you're not 100%, what do you say, la la la?
Right.
Be the detective and come up with that statement so that you can counter that, right? And then go through the sequence.
Right. And if you don't know what to say, which is what people always say to me, I just say, start, even though I don't know what to say. I deeply and completely love it, accept myself. And by the time you do one round, you're usually calm enough to figure out something to say. Something. It doesn't even have to be the thing.
Yes.
Like, listen, you finish a round and you listen. That's really important. You just stop and you listen. You go, oh, what came up? What thoughts did I have?
Yeah, I think I always talk about that catch and release, right? You've got to catch the thoughts that whiz by, because sometimes they whiz by in like a nanosecond. And so sometimes I have to like slow people down, like, no, tell me exactly what you were thinking. And they'll name like 12 really snarky things they're saying to themselves, and they're not even hearing it.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, did you hear the part about where you were like, then I blah, and like, wow, no wonder you don't want to do that activity. It's so loaded with, with
self-judgment. Yeah, self-criticism. Yeah, exactly.
Self-criticism and a means to protect oneself.
Yes, yes, yes.
I want to point out to everyone, like, normalize this. This happens to all of us because we're human. And there's something that happens when we're children. We're biologically primed to believe that the adults around us know everything and that they're right. So if they criticize us, and even if it's completely unjust, what we will tell ourselves is, oh, since biologically they're correct, it must be me. So we take on this way of telling ourselves stories right from very small, as an adaptive response to get along with the big people around us.
Very true, very true. And I want to say something else. Is the end of the statement is, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. And for some people, that's hard to say. So last night I was at a workshop, and the person who came up for demonstration. She asked me if I could soften it. So I said, I'm willing. And she said, that's not soft enough. And I said, okay, I'm open. I'm willing to be open to love and accept myself.
Wow.
So there's variations of saying that. If it feels like, no, I don't, then again, it isn't effective because you're, doing this instead of flowing with it. So
Yes. Yeah.
mhm,
So I'm willing. I'm willing to be.
I'm willing to love and accept myself. I'm open to love and accept myself. I'm willing to be open is what she needed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Back it up, back it up, back it up until it feels good. It's a process that's supposed to feel good,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
you know.
Great. Well, I love it, and I could just go on and on and on. But so I want to keep this short for our viewers. Thank you so much. It's like just such a joy to talk with you, and you are always la la la. So I just want to say that and say how much I appreciate your energy and what you're doing to get this out into the world. It's really very beautiful. So
Thank you. I feel honored and blessed that I'm part of this whole thing. Yeah.
great.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right. So take
Okay.
good care.
Okay.